Absolutely. So thanks to everyone that has joined and whoever is going to join later. My name is Lluis Canet, and I'm a data scientist, investor, and advisor, and a blockchain enthusiast. So my day-to-day job is actually I work for Google, and I am a global solutions lead for AI and data in the Google Cloud division. And I focus specifically on the media and entertainment market, trying to understand how we can actually build better solutions and services within Google Cloud to help companies adopt more cloud services in that industry. But one thing that I want to be clear about, I want to put the disclaimer out there. The topic of today, it's plainly based on my own opinion on the subject and my own perception of the subject. It has nothing to do with what Google thinks about it or what we're doing at Google, right? So I just want to be clear that whatever you hear today, it's my own experience and opinion on Web 3.0 and has nothing to do with Google. So the way I thought about this presentation when I heard about the main theme of Me2E for this year was about connection, right? Human connection. And I feel like right now we're living through a very unprecedented time where this new paradigm of web interactions is emerging that is drastically going to transform how humans interact with each other, right? Whether you call it metaverse, blockchain, Web 3.0, it doesn't matter. The matter is that we are living through a state of change in the online world. So what I wanted to do today, I'm not expecting you to kind of become a blockchain expert or a crypto billionaire when coming out of this call. What I want is to be able to spark some thoughts on you. I want you to walk away having a better understanding of what Web 3.0 is, what are the underlying technologies that power it, and how those technologies have an opportunity to kind of transform the world. So that's a pretty ambitious goal, but I'll try to do my best. So in order to get there, let's just start by talking a little bit about the history of the web. And let me see if I can go to the next slide. There you go. So when the web was created back in the early 90s, like the way of interacting between creators and consumers of content was kind of a unidirectional, right? You would have these portals or the website that people would create, and then they would broadcast information to many, many different people. The next generation of that, which is like Web 2.0, kind of changed, is kind of the area of social, right? A lot of social media companies emerged. More social interactions started to happen within the web ecosystem. But one thing that was unique about it is that there was always someone in the middle, right? Whether that is TikTok or Facebook, like those companies are or Google, like those companies are the ones that actually broker those social interactions between the creators and the consumers, right? What we're living right now is kind of a new paradigm where we have the basic technology to be able to start creating decentralized communities that allow peer-to-peer value exchange that give users ownership and control on those interactions that they have, as opposed to being them being centralized in a central entity that decides what you want to do, what you are allowed to see and not to see, and enable them to self-express in ways that it was not possible before, right? So like so let's take a step back again, right? So if Web 2.0 is already kind of allowing us to do some social interactions, like what is broken about it? Why do we need to fix it and create this kind of Web 3.0 paradigm? So one of the reasons is because people are tired, right? I'm guilty of like spending too much time scrolling through social media, looking too much into fake news and bad news and sponsored material that it's being fed to me because the algorithm that powers the social media platforms is optimized to kind of monetize on my attention, right? So I am the currency that my attention is the currency that this platform use to be able to drive revenue for their shareholders. So they're incentivized to be able to grab your attention, not necessarily to create value for the end community. And people are getting tired of this. And just because the new generations are looking for connections, but not just a very simple connections. They look for connections with active participation. And active participation, when someone can control the rules of that interaction, uh, it's been seen as limited, right? And that's what's happening right now. Like, people are looking for active participation in a way that they can have more community management, right? And I mean, we're seeing that active participation being rolled out into these metaverse worlds where they kind of freely interact with each other and go wherever they want, or like these social commerce trends where like people are starting to sell to each other things in the social media space. So there's a need, especially in the newer generations, to have that an increased connection and participation. The other trend that we're seeing is around self-expression, right? So people are looking for ways to express themselves beyond what they actually are. So we're creating these new metaverses that allow people to kind of step out of their daily life and kind of create someone that they aspire to be, or that kind of represents them in a different way. So there's also this need to create a self-expression that can be achieved through a metaverse. The other big trend that we're seeing is NFTs. And for those of you who are not familiar with the term, an NFTs is what is called a non-fungible token, that it's basically a deed for digital ownership, right? So you can actually buy a digital asset. That digital asset can be assigned to your own digital wallet, and we'll talk a little bit about what all this is, but it's basically a way to associate ownership of something to you, right? Because like, imagine that you have one of those pictures of the monkeys, right? Anybody can download that picture from the internet and have it in their drive, but only one person will have the ownership to that picture, and that will be kind of recorded through that NFT that that lives in the blockchain. And we'll talk more details on all of this. So like, going over like all those different needs and trends that we see in the market, those are needs, but what is enabling us to be able to solve for those needs right now? And the tools that are allowing us to solve for those needs right now are three main core technologies. One of them is going to be blockchain. The other one is going to be artificial intelligence. And the third one is going to be AR and VR. So the intersection of these three technologies that allows us to create these kind of decentralized communities that solve for that higher level of control, that higher level of interaction and self-expression, is what we call Web 3.0. So just to kind of take a step back, right? Everything that we talked about. So Web 3.0 is basically a new type of web-enabled community that allows you to self-govern what happens in the community. It's intelligent through artificial intelligence. It gives you new forms of self-expression, and it gives you new forms of value exchange. And this is very important. The last point, the new forms of value exchange, it's very important because it allows us to step away from the traditional business model of a lot of the internet companies that kind of either monetize through subscription or through ad sales that they show to you. So this new paradigm of Web3 is actually creating a different way of monetizing these type of interactions, so that everybody has a little more control on what they can do and cannot do. So I want to double click a little bit more on how we can enable these different forms of value exchange. I want to talk a little bit about the technology that enables these new ways of exchanging value, and also examples on how these Web3 communities are using this technology to create those type of value exchanges. So as I said before, like, one of the core technologies for this Web 3.0 paradigm is blockchain. And there might be some people in the audience that know what blockchain is, but there might be other people that are pretty new to the concept. So I'm gonna assume that like nobody knows about it. So I'm gonna try to explain it in very simple terms what blockchain is. So imagine you have a bank account and you're trying to transfer money to a friend, right? You will basically create a wire transfer through your bank website, and you will say, okay, I want to transfer $100 to my friend Mario to his that has this specific bank account, right? What happens, like there's never money actually exchanged between you and your friend. What happens is that there's a ledger, which is your bank account. That ledger creates a new entry and says, okay, we're actually deducting $100 from your bank account, and then we're adding $100 to the ledger of your friend, right? Those two ledgers actually belong to a much bigger ledger, which is like the bank ledger, like that kind of controls all the transaction from all their users, right? So that type of money exchange, it's possible because there's a centralized ledger that allows everybody to understand who owns what and how does money move from one place to the other. Now, that centralized ledger is owned by a specific entity. In your case, it could be the bank. If you're actually transferring across bank entities, it would actually be the central bank of your country. If you're doing it internationally, there are other entities that kind of keep track of all these different money transfers. So the point is, like, the banking system is created in a way that there's always someone that controls what's actually happening. What blockchain created is it created a fully decentralized way of understanding what a fully decentralized way of creating a transactional system. So the way the blockchain works is like, hey, I want to send one of the currencies that leverage the blockchain technology, and it was the first one that kind of started this whole trend, is Bitcoin. So if I want to send a big Bitcoin to Stacy, I will know what's Stacy's address. So I will send it from my address that has 3 Bitcoins. I will send 1 Bitcoin to Stacy, and then that Bitcoin transaction will get recorded in the blockchain. So the blockchain kind of becomes that ledger of the transactions that are happening. So at any point in time, like, anybody can go into the blockchain and can know that I only have 2 Bitcoins because I transferred 1 to Stacy, and Stacy now has 1 more Bitcoin than whatever she had in her account, right? So it's basically allowing for you to do the same thing that the banks do, but this ledger actually is not owned by anyone. So you actually have a network of thousands of machines that all of them have the same copy of the ledger. So at any point in time, you can take the machines from one place, and there will be still 1,000 others that will have that record. So it kind of becomes this ubiquitous entity that is able to track transactions without the need of someone actually owning the system itself. So this is a very powerful statement, right? And this type of decentralized transactions, it's what are actually creating this new paradigm to be able to provide value exchanges in this Web 3.0 ecosystem. And we're going to talk a little bit about how are some of the ways where a lot of these projects in the Web 3.0 ecosystem can start monetizing using this paradigm. So one of the simplest ways to monetize using Web 3.0 is to use NFT memberships. So as I said before, an NFT is basically a digital ownership of an asset, right? So the way it works is like, if you own this piece of digital property, that ownership will get recorded into the blockchain the same way that we actually recorded that you had a Bitcoin, right? So at any point in time, everybody knows who owns this digital asset because it's recorded in the blockchain. At any point in time, you can actually sell this asset and transfer it to someone else, right? So it kind of allows the creation of this marketplace of digital assets. So that's what the most the typical use case for this, it's for art, digital art. So there's a ton of marketplace like OpenSea that are predicated on the premise of being able to create ownership for the digital assets that creators make, and then being able to create a marketplace that allows them to transfer it. But there's also other industries that are being disrupted by these, and this is an example from the hospitality industry, right? So there is this new food club that has been built in New York. They focus on seafood. It's basically a restaurant, and you can only get access to the restaurant if you actually buy an NFT, right? So you actually buy a digital membership that is recorded in the blockchain that allows you to get access to this exclusive club. And you would say, okay, what's the difference between these and just a regular membership to any other club that I have? The main difference here is that the asset that you're actually buying, it becomes a lot easier to exchange, because now you can go to any NFT marketplace and you can actually sell or buy these assets, right? So you're kind of creating this new economy of assets. And if you, for example, if you've ever gone to a sporting event, whether it's a soccer match or a football match or a baseball match, if you try to kind of buy a ticket from someone else that has bought it through the official system, like they're reselling, like you know how difficult it is to implement these type of things in practice, right? So blockchain kind of creates this ecosystem where the ability to counterfeit these digital properties and the exchange of these digital properties becomes extremely difficult. So that is one example on how you can easily start monetizing through these type of exchanges, like by creating these exclusive communities that have a membership memberships created as NFTs, and then you can buy them and exchange them and sell them and trade them. Another model is what is called like a token, creating token fan communities, right? So the way this works, like I'm an artist, I maybe play music and I'm a musician, and I want to be able to monetize my music in a different way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create my own cryptocurrency token, my Lluis Canet coin, or whatever you want to call it, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to put this token in the blockchain. Any of my fans that actually buy this token, now I have the ability to do this, to decide what I want to do with the fans that own this token, right? I can say maybe the fans that own these tokens are going to get access to exclusive events. Maybe I say, okay, if you own a specific amount of tokens, I'm going to be able to funnel royalties to you. So like, for example, if I'm trying to raise money, I can say, okay, please buy my token. What you're going to get in exchange for this token is actually proceeds from my music sales. Like every proceed that comes, we will actually funnel it through you in actual digital currency through these tokens. It can be given access to community chats. The key here is that you're actually giving the artist the power to decide how to raise money and what is his community getting out of that money that they're investing in you, right? So but it's not only about creating an ability for these fans to get access to these exclusive experience or even like these financial rewards. The interesting thing is that it's not just a one-time thing. These tokens actually become tradable. So you can actually go to a marketplace and you can sell them. And what happens if, like, imagine that you want to invest in a struggling artist, right? Nobody knows him, but you kind of decide to take a leap of faith. You buy some of their tokens, and then because of the community that he creates, he becomes an extremely successful artist, right? Now there are going to be a lot of people that want to be able to have pay 10 times more, right? So this marketplace allows for that opportunity to kind of resell these tokens in a way that actually creates an economy that is based on success and is based on the actual creation of that community. Another example of like the type of communities and societal dynamics that can be created in this paradigm is the concept of a DAO. So a DAO is a concept that is used a lot in the world of Web 3.0 or blockchain, which is it stands for Decentralized Autonomous Organization. So what is a decentralized autonomous organization? It's basically a bunch of people with a shared bank account that decide together what they want to do with that money. And they decide that through a protocol, right? So there's a specified set of rules that say how people can actually propose new proposals for how the money is going to be spent, how to actually vote for those proposals, how to actually execute those proposals. And that all of that is actually specified through code in the blockchain, right? Because the blockchain is something that is actually highly programmable. So when you create a decentralized autonomous organization, you can create, like, you can specify what are the rules that are going to govern this society. And then have people join that society by maybe buying tokens or creating NFTs that give you access to that society, and then like creating these dynamics where people can actually own what is being done with that money that we're actually all invested into this, right? Some popular DAOs that have emerged. There's one that is called City DAO. What this group did, they actually collected a bunch of money, created this crypto money, created this community, and they actually bought a piece of land in the state of Wyoming here in the United States. And right now they're using that community to decide like how do they want to build that town, how do they want to organize it, like what should we, how should we actually invest these common resources into building a new city that kind of is specified to the requirements of the community, and everything is done in a very democratic and open way. There's like crazy ideas like creating a burger franchise as a DAO, right? Like, what if we could actually get a bunch of people to invest in creating a new food chain in our country, and we could all decide like which burger we're gonna make, which restaurants we're gonna rent, like which actual physical spaces we're gonna rent, who's gonna be our chef. Like, can we actually like create a fully decentralized and democratic organization that is actually based on all this technology that allows us to make those decisions as a community? There's also other ones that are not necessarily oriented around like how do we actually take this investment and invest it. There's another one that is called Friends with Benefits, and this is basically a community of that is just for social purposes, right? It's just a bunch of people that are fascinated about the crypto space. They created this organization. You actually need to buy a specific token to be able to get access to it, right? And that token gives you ability to vote on proposals, and the proposal that people have is how can we actually have more fun together? Like, how can we create new events? What events do we want to create? What do we want? Who do we want to organize those events? Like, it's about having fun together, but doing it in a way that allows everybody to kind of have a voice. So all of this kind of sounds really good in theory, but I want to warn you, like, don't buy into the hype. I mean, there's a lot of hype happening. This is an area that it's still in development, in very early stages. There's a lot of inflation in a lot of these, a lot of speculation, a lot of hackers trying to steal people crypto money. So there's a lot of dangers in this area, and it's an area that you need to tread carefully. But if we do it right, then it has the opportunity to basically transform many different aspects of our society, from our economy to the society itself, right? We're talking about like how to create these democratic systems to run companies or to run cities, uh, new ways of creating technology that allows type of interactions that never existed before, right? And how to actually create value for everyone through this new economy of whether it's the creator economy or the decentralized autonomous organization economy. So that's pretty much it. Like, that's all I had. Hopefully kind of inspired you a little bit, gave you a little sense of what this whole world of blockchain and Web 3.0 is, and what are some of the opportunities and what some of the things are doing in this space. And yeah, we still have a few more minutes, so I wanted to give people the opportunity to ask any questions.
Okay, fantastic. Very illustrative. Let us know learning how those things connect to each other, right? The blockchain, NFT. It's a good explanation. Thanks for bringing all that to us today.
Awesome.
Hey, I can ask one question. This is Anand. So, have you thought about how we could prevent people making false videos or false images on the news and then spread misinformation? Can this be used in that respect?
Yeah, so that's interesting, right? Because what you can, so in a community where you give actually power to the people, like the people self-regulate what is the type of content that goes into that community, right? So if you could actually have the ability, as opposed to having like Facebook or Google decide what fake news are, like you actually can design the protocol in a way that you, every time someone actually posts a new thing, you can actually have, before that actually gets into the wild, you can have maybe a community of governors, right, that kind of can decide whether that is something that is legitimate to post or not, right? So all of these dynamics are kind of things that are being explored, and it's an area of research, and it's, as I said, it's something that is developing, right? But there's the key premise in here is like we're actually giving the power back to the people on what can be done, as opposed to like that power being centralized on a specific entity, right?
Got it. Thank you.
Hi, this is Nivas here. I have one question. The platform what we have with the Facebook or these, right? Then if you want to communicate to multiple people, right? That's what the platform gives, where you can post a content where you don't need to send it to one-on-one. You just post it on there and it is being spread across. How tomorrow these communities, what we are defining, will be a layer between that to before it is being posted onto the platform, or it is the platform who makes that decision whether this content has to be posted on the platform or not? Which one is that part?
Yeah, so the blockchain aspect of it will be a layer, and it will be a governance layer on that, right? So you're basically implementing a governance that right now, for example, in Facebook is governed by an algorithm, right? In the blockchain can be part of an algorithm versus part of a community, right? Maybe you can have a kind of a rough algorithm that kind of filters things out that are very obvious, but then like for the things that are kind of on the edge, you can decide, okay, I'm not sure whether these post should be banned or not, because even though like it's talking about something controversial, it's also like promoting, we also want to promote free speech. So like let the community decide like whether they want to do it, and that governance layer will happen in the blockchain, right? But the actual posting the video, the delivery of that video to the end user, like will still happen through like the internet infrastructure that we currently have.
Oh, okay, got it. So that technology will be used to determine whether it has to go onto that platform or not. Okay.
Yeah, it's a governance layer.
Yeah.
It's a governance and monetization layer, right? Because it can be done for to kind of control what type of content goes into the platform, but also like to be able to monetize it, right? Maybe you get as a member of the community, like we have a rule that kind of incentivizes people, like people that create the most, they're going to get the most tokens back, right? So they kind of it also gives you an ability to kind of get rewarded for the stuff that you create, right? So that's the piece of the stack that is going to be governed.
So no, very interesting one. Thank you.
Hi, I have a quick question. So
Sure.
we have a lot of blockchain systems. So why is it so important to develop Web3? Because isn't blockchain decentralized enough already?
So Web3 is not an alternative to blockchain. Web3 is just a new paradigm of developing applications and developing communities that where blockchain is a main component of it, right? As we said, like we're actually not reinventing the internet. We're not reinventing blockchain. We're just utilizing all the pieces that we do to kind of create a new type of online interaction. That is what is calling Web 3.0, right? So yeah, that's what Web 3.0 means. It's like it's thinking of a different way of creating online communities, and blockchain is going to be one of the sub technologies that is going to enable that new way of interacting with users.
Thank you.
So my question is, how do you think about the cost of developing blockchains? Because you mentioned one of the key characteristics is that the blockchain develop the ledgers, and every transaction will have ledgers across the globe. So at this scale, the maintenance of that ledger must associate certain costs, just like the example of the bank. So who is going to would it someday become unbearable that the cost is so big that the entire blockchain overhead of maintaining the ledger system just crashed?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and it's already that what you're saying is actually happening already with blockchain, right? There are a lot of people that are concerned the fact, with Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is a coin that was implemented in a blockchain system. It was the original one. And the amount of energy that it takes to kind of create these systems that can maintain the ledger and can maintain the consensus across the network so that everybody has the same exact version of the truth on those ledgers consumes so much energy that it's actually becoming unbearable. Like it actually takes more money, more energy to buy a Tesla with a Bitcoin than what it does to actually drive a 1990 truck for 10 years, right? So there's definitely like this type of like scalability and sustainability questions that are coming into the picture. However, like that's why other blockchains are emerging, right? Like Bitcoin was the first one, and it had these problems because the way that it actually does the consensus across the network. But there are emerging new ways of doing things that are a lot more sustainable, right? So my theory here is like the amount of value and the amount of money that is going into this ecosystem is going to allow this ecosystem to innovate at a really fast pace that is going to be able to kind of find workarounds for those issues that currently run in some of the blockchain ecosystems, right? So the scalability is going to be solved through technology innovation, and we're already seeing that happening with the emergence of like improved blockchain ecosystems and technologies.
So what you describe is a hope or ideal state that the future technology will solve the cost issue. But the phenomenon you described that because other blockchain is also emerging to solve this cost issue, that sounds like creating multiple blockchain system or ecosystem where that go against to the scale economy where you want to have a marketplace that everybody can exchange the value. But now if you are having multiple blockchain ecosystem, then you are create more fragmentation that you cannot freely exchange the value. Am I thinking in a right direction?
You're thinking it right. Like it's not something that's going to happen in the future. It's something that's already happening, right? So people realize Bitcoin is not sustainable. People created alternatives to the way Bitcoin operates to be able to solve for those issues. That created new issues, right? That created what you're saying, like the issue of fragmentation. Now, like we have two different blockchains that work differently, have a different programming language, have a different currency that operates them. So like now people are actually creating another solution on top of that, which is like this interconnection across blockchains. And there are several projects that kind of are working in this kind of cross blockchain compatibility. So it is not something that I'm hoping for the future to happen. It is something we're already seeing happening. Like we're seeing how, because this ecosystem is developing so fast, we're seeing how like we're uncovering these issues and those issues are being resolved. But those uncovered other issues that were not foreseen before, right? And that is what happened with the internet, right? So when the internet started, like it was for military applications. Like nobody predicted the amount of innovation that allowed us to get to where we are right now, right? And many different layers of abstraction had to be built on top of the TCP/IP protocol and HTML protocols that kind of created the web to start to begin with. But kind of that we're seeing that same level of innovation and pace happening in this space too.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot to everyone.
Yes.
I actually need to step out, but yeah. Sorry, Luis Carlos, you have a question?
Yes, a very good question, and thank you, Luis. Very insightful talk. I don't know how long is the answer, but basically, how would you say, because I saw you touch obviously on blockchain, but what about Web3 when it comes to disruption on traditional business models? And what would you advise as baby steps for corporations to start getting awareness and planning for these new technologies?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we've already seen a couple of examples on how Web3 can transform traditional businesses, right? We've seen how, for example, people are transforming the way, like the hospitality industry to this fly fish club, right? Where they created this NFT that allows people to kind of get access to it. So like traditional, or the Burger DAO that I was talking also, right? These kind of creating this community that are actually transforming the hospitality industry, right? So there are different opportunities to disrupt like traditional businesses with Web 3.0. The baby steps are very clear because there are a lot of things that we're still trying to figure out. But I mean, I think that the initial place to start is like any business. Like you want to transform, basically Web 3.0 transforms your business model, right? So you want to be able to design that business model before you even start doing anything. So using all this technology and having understanding of how these things work, like how can you actually start designing what that new business model is going to be before you even start implementing anything. So I think that's the most important piece, is like defining what type of new interactions, how are they going to be governed, like how are we actually going to have give people access to our communities and things like that. Like, so defining kind of the logical interactions across the different parties within the business and how they're going to be governed is the place that where everything needs to start. And forget about Bitcoin and blockchain. Like, these are technical implementations, right? Let's think about the logic and the business model first.
Yeah.
Got it.
Luis,
Thank you.
thank you very much. I think you are reaching the end here. So we have a section coming right after that. So anything you'd like to close? Would you like to say anything to close?
No, I mean, thanks a lot for listening. I'm very passionate about this area. I spend a lot of my time like advising startup companies and like using some of the knowledge for my own work. So if you have any more questions, you can look me up in LinkedIn, Lluis Canet, and you can send me an email. I can give you my personal information. I'll be super happy to kind of have any chat with any. This is a community, right? So we're all learning this together. So being exposed to more use cases and more problems that could be solved through this is what this community is all about, right? Let's try to. They have this. We're all gonna make it theme, right? In the crypto space, right? We're not gonna be able to make this change unless we all work on solving these problems together.
No,
Thanks a lot.
fantastic. Give us a lot of good ideas for startups, right? So thank you very much, and a great question from everybody here. So please follow him on the internet or looking for him on LinkedIn for sure. A lot of things you can come from that. Thanks very much.